Umaga's journey in the world of professional wrestling was nothing short of a roller coaster ride, one marked by immense highs, unforgettable moments, and an untimely, tragic fall. From his explosive debut in WWE, where his imposing presence captivated fans, to his sudden exit and controversial return, Umaga's career was filled with twists and turns that left fans guessing what would come next. But behind the intense in-ring persona and the larger-than-life character was a man who struggled with personal demons, seeking redemption in Japan and on world tours after WWE. But what exactly became of the Samoan bulldozer? Let's find out, starting with struggles with substance abuse. The life of Umaga, a WWE superstar, wasn't as glamorous as it appeared under the arena's bright lights. Behind the roaring crowds and championship belts is a grueling lifestyle of unrelenting travel, physical exhaustion, and relentless pressure to perform. The cost of keeping up with this punishing pace became increasingly steep for Umaga. How do you keep delivering awe-inspiring performances when your body feels like breaking down? For many wrestlers, the answer lies in a dangerous game: reliance on substances. Painkillers for the body aches, muscle relaxers to soothe strained ligaments, and anxiety medications to calm the mind after adrenaline-filled bouts. It's a cocktail that promises short-term relief, but often leads to long-term consequences. For Umaga, these substances became less of a choice and more of a necessity. The intense physicality of his matches, coupled with the psychological toll of living up to his fearsome persona, drove him deeper into this cycle of dependency. This struggle became public knowledge when Umaga violated WWE's wellness policy, not once, but twice. Designed to safeguard wrestlers' health, the policy mandates regular drug testing and offers rehabilitation for those who falter. Yet when faced with the option of rehab after his second violation in 2009, Umaga refused. This refusal resulted in his release from WWE, severing him from the structure and support that might have helped him confront his addiction. Imagine the weight of that decision. For a man whose life revolved around the ring, losing his place in WWE was more than a professional setback. It was a personal blow. Was he ashamed, defiant, or simply overwhelmed by a problem too big to tackle alone? Perhaps it was all of the above. While his release marked the end of his WWE journey, the battle raging within him continued unchecked. The wrestling world is no stranger to tales of addiction, but Umaga's story hits particularly hard. Why? Because his struggle wasn't just personal, it was emblematic of a broader issue in the industry. Wrestling is a sport that demands physical extremes, yet historically it has offered little support for the mental and emotional toll those extremes exact. Umaga's reliance on substances wasn't about recklessness or rebellion, it was a desperate attempt to keep going. His high-impact style, a whirlwind of headbutts, Samoan drops, and his signature Samoan spike meant he absorbed punishment in ways most athletes couldn't fathom. And let's not forget the emotional toll of being a larger-than-life character, day in and day out. What happens when the cameras stop rolling and the cheers fade? For Umaga, the answer lay in the very substances that were pulling him under. Wrestlers like Jeff Hardy and Eddie Guerrero also walked this perilous path, and while their names often appear in cautionary tales, each story is unique in its heartbreak. In Umaga's case, the culture of silence surrounding mental health and substance abuse in wrestling likely compounded his isolation. After all, how does one admit vulnerability when their persona is built on invincibility? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At this point, you're probably asking, was there no way out? WWE's wellness policy offered rehab, but Umaga's refusal raises questions. Was he in denial, fearful of judgment, or perhaps simply too far into the cycle of dependency to believe in recovery? His story underscores a harsh truth. Offering help is one thing. Convincing someone to accept it is another battle entirely. While his struggles with substance abuse highlighted the immense personal cost of a career built on physical and emotional extremes, the true weight of those challenges became heartbreakingly clear in the months that followed as Umaga's health began to decline and tragedy struck. Decline in health and tragic death. As Umaga's star soared, so did whispers of his personal battles. Multiple violations of WWE's wellness policy brought his struggles into public view. In 2009, he faced a critical decision after failing a second drug test: attend rehabilitation or leave WWE. When he refused rehab, the company released him. It was a devastating blow for Umaga, severing ties with the organization that had been a cornerstone of his identity. What followed was a downward spiral. Devoid of the structure WWE had provided, Umaga was left to wrestle his demons alone. His health visibly declined, and his once dominant presence in the ring was now overshadowed by a growing fragility. Family and friends noticed the changes, a shadow of the man who once electrified arenas worldwide. Could it have been prevented? Perhaps the story might have taken a different turn if someone had intervened earlier. But in the world of professional wrestling, where the show must always go on, such intervention often comes too late. December 3rd, 2009 was a night that would forever haunt the Anoa'i family. Umaga was at home, unwinding in front of the television. By all accounts, it was an ordinary evening, but in the stillness of the night, tragedy struck. His wife discovered him unresponsive, blood trickling from his nose, a harrowing sight that sent waves of panic through the household. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, where the devastating truth emerged. Umaga had suffered a heart attack, but this was only the beginning. Within 24 hours, he suffered a second heart attack, his body unable to withstand the onslaught. Doctors fought valiantly to save him, but his condition rapidly deteriorated. Family members were summoned to the hospital, a somber gathering that underscored the gravity of the situation. The next day, December 4th, 2009, Eddie Fatu, the man who had once towered over opponents with a primal roar, was gone. At just 36 years old, the world lost a wrestling icon, and a family lost a beloved son, husband, and father. Umaga's tragic death cast a harsh spotlight on the dangers of painkiller abuse, a silent epidemic within the wrestling industry. For instance, hydrocodone is a painkiller. Carisoprodol, commonly called Soma, is a muscle relaxer. Diazepam, commonly called Valium, is an anti-anxiety medication. Prolonged use of such substances wreaks havoc on the body, particularly the heart and liver. For Umaga, years of dependency had taken their toll, leaving his organs irreparably damaged. The pressure to perform, to meet the demands of an unforgiving schedule, often forces wrestlers to ignore their own well-being. Painkillers become a crutch, offering temporary relief at a devastating long-term cost. Umaga's case was not unique, but it was profoundly sobering, a clear reminder of the human cost of the spectacle that millions enjoy. But amid the grief, difficult questions arose. What could have been done differently? Could stricter wellness policies or earlier interventions have saved his life? Umaga's story became a cautionary tale, igniting conversations about substance abuse, mental health, and the grueling nature of the wrestling industry. As Umaga's tragic end highlighted the personal toll of his struggles, it's essential to remember where it all began, the roots of a legacy steeped in family tradition, culture, and an unrelenting pursuit of greatness. The glory days. Born Eddie Fatu in 1973 in the beautiful islands of Samoa, Umaga's story started long before he became the destructive powerhouse fans adored. Wrestling was in his blood. His uncles were none other than the legendary AFA and Sika Anoa'i, founding members of the famous Wild Samoans tag team. This meant wrestling wasn't just a career for Eddie, but a legacy. He was destined for greatness, but the road to that greatness was far from easy. As a teenager, Eddie wasn't just focused on wrestling. Like many young Samoans, he was immersed in the rich culture of family, honor, and community. However, wrestling would soon call him in a way he couldn't ignore. Eddie trained in the same wrestling rings that honed the skills of his iconic family, and thus he began his journey, slowly transitioning from a local talent into a force that would dominate the squared circle. In the early 2000s, Eddie Fatu made his WWE debut as Jamal, part of the tag team 3 Minute Warning. Paired with the monstrous Rosie, the duo wreaked havoc on WWE's roster. But despite the fun of tag team wrestling, Eddie knew he could do more. It was clear that his potential went beyond being a tag team partner. And so, with the help of WWE legend Paul Heyman, he transitioned into the persona that would change everything. Unfortunately, this would not last too long before WWE released him unceremoniously in 2003. However, Umaga's first termination from WWE turned out to be a blessing in disguise, offering him an unexpected opportunity to refine his craft. Following his release, he joined All Japan Pro Wrestling, immersing himself in a highly competitive environment where he faced some of the world's most skilled and accomplished wrestlers. Whether in tag team or singles matches, Umaga pushed himself to new limits, gaining invaluable experience and evolving as a performer. The challenges he faced in the Japanese wrestling scene sharpened his in-ring skills and helped him develop a more dynamic and compelling wrestling style. His dedication and growth did not go unnoticed. Impressed by his transformation and the buzz surrounding his overseas performances, WWE officials saw Umaga's potential again and decided to give him another opportunity. In 2006, just a day after WrestleMania 22, he returned triumphantly to WWE, ready to embark on a new chapter of his career. In 2006, he was reborn as Umaga, formerly Jamal, a savage, unpredictable powerhouse, a man with no remorse or mercy, a Samoan warrior who brought destruction wherever he went. The new character was a far cry from the happy-go-lucky Jamal. Umaga was all business, and that business was breaking bones. From the very first moment he stepped into the ring, ring as Umaga, fans knew they were witnessing something special. His wild look, painted face, menacing expression, explosive moves, and brutal intensity made him stand out like no other. Umaga wasn't just a wrestler, he was a force of nature. His Samoan spike, a vicious thumb to the throat, became one of the most feared finishing moves in WWE history. And let's not forget his massive size. Umaga wasn't just a big guy, he was an immovable object that bulldozed through opponents like they were ragdolls. And speaking of bulldozing, his feuds with wrestlers like CM Punk, Ric Flair, Jeff Hardy, and Triple H were where he truly made his mark. Initially, his matches did little to discourage doubts among the fans. Umaga's early run consisted of squash matches, including bouts against the legendary Nature Boy Ric Flair and the comedic underdog Eugene. While these matches showcased his raw power and dominance, they lacked depth, leaving fans unimpressed. However, as weeks turned into months, something began to shift. Umaga's in-ring performances grew increasingly compelling, especially when paired with top-tier opponents. His feud with Jeff Hardy for the Intercontinental Championship was a turning point. The dynamic between the two was electric, with Hardy's daredevil agility contrasting Umaga's brute strength. Hardy's resilience and ability to sell Umaga's monstrous offense made their encounters must-see. Their rivalry elevated both performers and restored much-needed prestige to the Intercontinental title. Matches like their Falls Count Anywhere showdown at One Night Stand 2008 highlighted Umaga's versatility as a big man capable of adapting to high-stakes, chaotic environments. Another highlight of Umaga's career was his feud with Triple H, which showcased his ability to hang with one of WWE's most accomplished stars. The rivalry cemented Umaga's place as a credible main event level threat, whether it was intense singles bouts or tag matches where he aligned with top heels like Vince McMahon and Randy Orton. Umaga consistently delivered hard-hitting performances that earned him respect from fans and peers alike. And speaking of hard-hitting performances, none can rival what Umaga and John Cena put out for the fans while in the ring. The undefeated Samoan bulldozer, Umaga, stormed into 2007 with a seemingly unstoppable wave of momentum. Having elevated his game to new heights, he was rewarded with a significant push, entering a high-profile feud with John Cena over the WWE Championship. As the new year dawned, fans eagerly anticipated the clash between these two titans. Their rivalry ignited at January's New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, where the unstoppable force met the immovable object. In a dramatic and hard-fought battle, Cena managed to hand Umaga his first loss, ending an impressive undefeated streak. Yet this was only the beginning of their brutal saga. Weeks later, at the Royal Rumble, the stakes rose even higher in a last-man-standing match for the WWE Championship. In a barbaric display of resilience and power, the two superstars left everything in the ring. Umaga bloodied Cena and came agonizingly close to reclaiming the gold multiple times, but Cena, ever the embodiment of perseverance, utilized the detached ring ropes to choke Umaga unconscious, cementing his victory. Now, if you thought that was intense, wait until you hear about WrestleMania 23. In 2007, WWE went all in on one of the most bizarre yet iconic storylines in history, the Battle of the Billionaires. In one corner, Vince McMahon, the billionaire owner of WWE, and in the other, a man who was about to take WWE by storm, Donald Trump. But here's the twist. Umaga, Vince's powerhouse, was the centerpiece of this feud. And what did Trump do? He enlisted the help of Bobby Lashley, the powerhouse who was a mirror image of Umaga. The stakes? If Vince McMahon's representative Umaga lost, Vince would have to shave his head. If Trump's representative Bobby Lashley lost, Trump would shave his head. The match, a hair versus hair match, was one of the most talked about of that WrestleMania. The energy was through the roof. After a back-and-forth war between Lashley and Umaga, with both men delivering punishing blows and near falls, it was Bobby Lashley who triumphed, sending Vince McMahon into a fury as he shaved his own head. It was a moment that defined both men's careers. The Battle of the Billionaires wasn't just a match, it was a cultural spectacle. But the Battle of the Billionaires wasn't the only time Umaga locked horns with top talent. Bobby Lashley wasn't the only giant in WWE that had to deal with the Samoan bulldozer. Umaga also had his eyes set on the likes of Dave Bautista, the Animal himself. Umaga's rivalry with Bautista was an absolute collision of two unstoppable forces. These two men were built to destroy, and when they collided, the WWE Universe got a front-row seat to pure, unrelenting action. Each man delivered everything they had, but in the end, it was Umaga's savage nature that made him nearly unbeatable. Despite the losses, despite the tough battles, Umaga was more than just a villain. He was a fan favorite. Fans loved his raw intensity, his unpredictable nature, and his unrelenting drive to win. Whether it was his wars with Cena, Lashley, or Batista, Umaga made sure everyone knew his name. His feuds and matches would forever be remembered as some of the most brutal, high-stakes bouts in WWE history. But the story of Umaga wasn't just about the destruction in the ring. It was about the heart of the Samoan warrior, his pride, his culture, his family. It's what made him not just a character on TV, but a legend who would live on in the memories of the WWE universe. From humble beginnings in Samoa to becoming one of WWE's most feared forces, Umaga proved that true warriors are not just born, they're made, and his legend will live on forever in the hearts of fans worldwide. However, after his release from WWE following substance abuse, how did he get to steer his career as a professional wrestler? Did he progress the business of breaking bones or resort to an early retirement? Life after WWE. When Umaga parted ways with WWE in 2009, many assumed his star might fade into obscurity. After all, leaving the global juggernaut of professional wrestling is no small pivot. The departure followed a dramatic and publicized fallout, a second violation of WWE's wellness policy, and his refusal to attend rehab. It was a decision that marked the beginning of a turbulent chapter in his life, but also one filled with moments that revealed both the resilience of his spirit and the lingering shadows that plagued him. Yet, his exit from WWE wasn't the end of the story. Far from it. Would Umaga rise anew on a global stage, or would his demons consume him? The independent wrestling circuit would provide the backdrop for his next chapter, offering a mix of triumphs and tribulations that showcased the man behind the iconic Samoan wrecking ball. Freed from the constraints of WWE's rigorous schedule, Umaga, now adopting the ring name USO Fatu, set his sights on the international wrestling scene. For a performer of his caliber, opportunities weren't hard to find. His raw power, agility, and commanding in-ring presence made him a sought-after name among promoters worldwide. One of his early post-WWE stints saw him compete in Puerto Rico's World Wrestling Council, WWC. On July 11, 2009, he faced off against another familiar WWE alumnus, Mr. Anderson, formerly known as Mr. Kennedy. Fans braced themselves for a clash of titans, and Umaga didn't disappoint. The match served as a reminder of his unrelenting charisma and physicality. Emerging victorious, he proved that even outside the WWE machine, his star power hadn't waned. But what was next for the Samoan powerhouse? Wrestling fans wondered, was this just a nostalgic victory lap, or was USO Fatu poised to reinvent himself entirely? The answer came later that year when Umaga joined wrestling legend Hulk Hogan for the Hulkamania Tour in Australia. This wasn't just another indie gig, it was a spectacle designed to rekindle the golden era of professional wrestling. With Hogan at the helm, the tour drew a mix of legendary veterans and contemporary stars. For Umaga, the tour was more than a paycheck. It was a chance to bring his fierce persona to a new audience. Wrestling under the USO Fatu moniker, he squared off against iconic names like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, defeating him in a match that electrified the crowd. Despite the tour's nostalgic appeal, Umaga injected an intensity that reminded fans of the modern era's grit. While the international circuit offered freedom and adoration, it came with its own set of challenges. Unlike WWE, where wrestlers operate within a well-oiled machine, the independent scene required performers to handle their own schedules, bookings, and travel. For Umaga, this unstructured lifestyle added stress to an already taxing profession. The physical toll of professional wrestling was something he had battled for years. His punishing style, marked by crushing Samoan drops, corner, splashes, and his devastating Samoan spike finisher, didn't just leave opponents writhing in pain, it took a significant toll on his own body. Coupled with personal struggles that had already led to his departure from WWE, the independent scene became both an arena for his talent and a test of his resilience. By late 2009, the narrative of Umaga's career seemed poised for a dramatic turn. Reports began surfacing that WWE had reached out to the former Samoan bulldozer with an offer to return. The plan? A grand comeback at the Royal Rumble in January 2010. For fans, the thought of Umaga storming into the ring, obliterating competitors, and perhaps reigniting old rivalries was thrilling. For Umaga, it was a chance to reclaim the spotlight and write a new chapter of redemption. But why did WWE extend this olive branch? Was it purely business, or did they see the potential for a compelling redemption arc in Umaga? These questions lingered, teasing fans about what could have been. That aside, the independent circuit revealed two sides of Umaga. On one hand, it underlined his enduring popularity and talent. His matches in Puerto Rico, Mexico, and Australia showcased a man still at the top of his game, capable of captivating fans across the globe. But was it enough to heal the wounds left by his WWE exit? On the other hand, it highlighted the personal challenges he continued to face. Wrestling, especially at the independent level, often lacks the safety net that major promotions like WWE provide. For someone with a history of wellness violations, the absence of structured support systems could be both liberating and perilous. As he moved between promotions and continents, the question remained, was Umaga truly building towards something greater, or was he running from the ghosts of his past? While this chapter of Umaga's career is often overshadowed by the circumstances of his departure from WWE, it's important to view it as part of a larger narrative. His international tours weren't just about keeping his career alive, they were about sharing his unique blend of athleticism and charisma with fans who might never have experienced it otherwise. How many performers can claim they've left such an indelible mark, not just in one major promotion, but across the globe? Even in his tumultuous years, Umaga's influence extended beyond his own career. As part of the legendary Anoa'i family, his work inspired countless younger wrestlers who would go on to dominate the industry. His name became a symbol of the family's unmatched contribution to professional wrestling. What would his next act have looked like? That's the tantalizing question fans are left with when reflecting on Umaga's life after WWE. A Royal Rumble return? A fresh rivalry with a new generation of stars? The possibilities were as vast as his talent was undeniable. But here's the thing, life after WWE can vary greatly for retired wrestlers, depending on their personal interests, business ventures, and how they choose to stay connected with the wrestling world. For instance, The Big Show transitioned to acting, appearing in movies and television shows, notably starring in Netflix's The Big Show Show. He has also worked with AEW, All Elite Wrestling, continuing his wrestling career in a different organization while maintaining a strong presence in entertainment. His post-WWE life is marked by pursuing acting, occasional wrestling appearances, and focusing on personal health. On the other hand, The Undertaker, one of the most iconic figures in WWE, retired from full-time wrestling after his match at WrestleMania 36. Since then, he has been very selective about his appearances, largely focusing on family life and his brand. He has also ventured into the world of podcasts with The Undertaker, The Last Ride, a documentary reflecting on his legendary career and offering a behind-the-scenes look at his transition to life beyond the squared circle. Meanwhile, Hulk Hogan's much-publicized post-WWE life has been filled with business ventures, reality TV shows like Hogan Knows Best, and occasional wrestling appearances. Though his career in wrestling has slowed, he has remained a global pop culture figure, with his name tied to numerous branding projects, including merchandise, endorsement deals, and an ongoing relationship with WWE. While still speaking of post-WWE life, CM Punk left WWE under contentious circumstances, pursuing a career in UFC and later transitioning back into wrestling with AEW. His post-WWE journey was marked by a desire to reinvent himself, first as a mixed martial artist and then as a professional wrestler again, reconnecting with fans who had long admired his rebellious persona. It is also essential to note that other retired wrestlers have pursued careers in acting, commentary, business, or charity work. Some remain involved in the wrestling world through promotional appearances, while others embrace new challenges in unrelated fields. Despite their retirements, many maintain a loyal fan base and remain influential figures in pop culture. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.